104.5 The Team, your home for New York Yankees baseball. Just a week ago, he told me to get back from the ledge, and now I'm in a lawn chair. I'm just chilling, Buster. Everything's fine, Buster. Everything's good.
Wow. On one hand, I'm proud of you, and on the other hand, I'm sort of appalled that you were even that far on the ledge to begin with.
Well, all right. We've been getting some tweets and stuff. Let's talk about the bad thing first.
No, in other words, you're sending yourself tweets.
No, for once, I'm good, Buster. All right. So, just yesterday, Goz was like, all right. So Caprillian's hurt, Bird's hurt, this one's hurt, that one's hurt, and you're calm. See, I thought you'd be proud of me for that.
I don't need to define it, right? We just know that you are you, right? And you're going to have your emotions about the Yankees. I hope that, especially in April, that you can step back, look at it from 30,000 feet, and have the perspective of, you know what? Every year, every team, whether they're a great team or they're a bad team, they go through a stretch where it's a challenge. And it just so happens that the Yankees' gut check is happening early this season. And what we've seen in recent days should hearten you because they don't have Gary Sanchez and Greg Bird hasn't helped that much, and they don't have Didi Gregorius, and they got some issues popping up, but they're grinding away and they're getting some wins.
Buster, more important, the outing from Montgomery or the fact that Caprillian's done and we won't be able to call him up?
The outing from Montgomery. I remember the first time that I talked to Joe Girardi about him, and he talked about how he has such an unusual angle as a left-hander. He's a different look for a Yankees rotation, which generally speaking has leaned right, and he really felt like he could help. And I thought that in that first game, what we saw was someone who could throw strikes. And if you're the Yankees and you have a really good bullpen, you don't need your starting pitcher to necessarily be dominant, but just to keep you in games. And I thought that was encouraging because, let's face it, he's a young pitcher, and he's probably going to have some games where he's not necessarily going to pitch that great, but he looks like someone who could at least keep them close, keep them in games, and be competitive, and help to fill the back end of that rotation.
What do you believe is the future for James Caprillian? Tommy John surgery to come, but going forward, is he always going to be a New York Yankee?
I don't think we have enough information to know for sure. He's had enough arm injuries now where it's going to be an open question as to whether or not he's going to be able to help them. As you always have with guys who get Tommy John surgery, it raises a big question mark over their heads. I've had general managers say to me about potential free agents. Well, that guy has had Tommy John surgery. They say this about Yu Darvish, for example. Can you really bank on that guy going forward? The success rate is better than it used to be, but you just don't know. And the Yankees won't know until he starts to make his way back, and you hope that he's not one of those cases where he has a setback along the way. He becomes a complete wild card now for the Yankees.
Buster Olney with us right now, 104.5 The Team. So, Buster, I'm just hearing about this kid, Aaron Judge. Apparently he's pretty good.
Man, oh, man. He looks good. And, he worked really hard during the offseason to quiet the front part of his swing so that, in past years when he would try to get his foot down on time and begin his swing, what he had was a lot of movement. And this spring and during the offseason, he tried to make that calmer, to put himself in a better position to hit the ball. And the great thing is that it just so happened that they added Matt Holliday, who's a guy of similar size to Judge, who has to have very similar hitting mechanics. And Aaron told me in spring training he thought that Matt Holliday's conversations with him have really helped. And I know when I asked Matt Holliday about Aaron Judge, he said, he's Giancarlo Stanton. He's got that type of power, and we saw that in the game that the Yankees played on Wednesday against the Rays. It wasn't only the home run that he hit to Monument Park, but that line drive through the middle that almost took off the head of Jumbo Diaz, the pitcher for the Tampa Bay Rays, 116.5 miles per hour. It's the fastest velocity of any ball on a base hit by any major leaguer this year. And a lot of that, exit velocity numbers that we're seeing out of Aaron Judge are very similar to Giancarlo Stanton. And, as I mentioned, at a time when they're looking for guys to step up to sort of maintain an equilibrium as they deal with these early season injuries, Aaron Judge is doing that.
Buster, when you look at this offense, it's shocking to me how well Chase Headley is playing.
Yeah. Well, and he made a great adjustment this spring. He, someone who'd been shifted on and he's been beating the shift, hitting the ball the other way. It reminds you of what Mike Moustakas has done with the Kansas City Royals the last couple of years. He's off to a great start, and let's face it, he needed a great start because the Yankees have this kid down in the minor leagues. You might have heard of him, Gleyber Torres, who they got for Aroldis Chapman last year. And we talked in spring training about how Torres at some point, potentially was a candidate for promotion based in part on how Chase Headley did. If Chase Headley struggled at the outset of this year, then the Yankees would begin to have to assess whether or not they wanted to keep him as an everyday third baseman moving forward because he's in year 3 of a 4-year deal. And, hey, you know what? He made the adjustments that helped them. He's hitting, and it's a real positive for them. And Gleyber Torres, by the way, down in the minor leagues, .464 on base percentage to start this season.
The Yankees' offense is looking great, and the Mets' offense is looking good, too. How did this happen?
They played the Phillies, right?
Okay. Fair point. Fair point.
I mean, they absolutely padded their numbers. They're like a great scorer in the NBA who racks up 70 points against the worst team in the league. I don't know what's going on with the Phillies in the way that they can't control the Mets, but certainly it comes at a nice time for the Mets because their offense had been struggling, and then they go into Philadelphia, and Yoenis Cespedes goes off, and Jay Bruce continues to hit. Lucas Duda hit a ball still think hasn't come down there, and they're going to come out of Philadelphia feeling pretty good about themselves. And you have to feel good about what you saw to Matt Harvey the other day. Again, a bump in velocity upward, seemingly better command, a good fastball. That rotation, while it doesn't have the depth that we thought it would have at the beginning of the season, excellent, especially at the front end.
Any fear in that hamstring issue with Harvey at all?
No, it doesn't sound like it. I talked to a Mets official who told me that they didn't think it was a big deal, and he's expected to make his next start on Sunday.
Buster Olney with us right now on 104.5 The Team.
Buster, let's talk about this theory that's starting to pick up some traction involving a 4-man outfield in baseball.
Yeah, and it's something that's been done, it seems like about once every decade or every 2 decades, someone gives it a look. For example, when Jim Rice was the MVP for the Boston Red Sox at that time, and he was a slugger everyone feared, it was Whitey Herzog of the Kansas City Royals that played a 4-man outfield. In recent days, and we're in an era now, guys, when hitters are talking more and more about launch angle and trying to get the ball in the air, because getting the ball in the air is how you get paid, because that's how you do damage, and teams are more open to shifting. Hearing more and more from evaluators talking about the potential benefits of a 4-man outfield in a specific situation. So this is far from anyone saying that, for every batter you'd use a 4-man outfield. It would be a situation, for example, if a guy like David Ortiz came to the plate with 2 outs in the 5th inning, and what you could basically do in that situation is say, you know what, we're going to stack up the outfield, and we're going to cut down the opportunity for an extra base hit, and cut down the opportunity for David Ortiz to get a double. And if he wants to slap a single through the left side of the infield, or he wants to bunt, we'll tip our cap to him. We'll tell him thank you very much. We'd rather have you doing that than trying to hit for power. And this is, I think, a case where if you get a batter like a Greg Bird, who's an acute fly ball hitter, in terms of how much he generates, you get a pitcher who generates a lot of fly balls. The philosophy would be very much the same as it would be when you back up all the outfielders and play no doubles defense, or you play the corner infielders on the line. You're basically saying we want to reduce the chances of an extra base hit, and if you play 4 outfielders at any time, the percentage of doubles is probably going to drop dramatically, and there would be no triples, and it would be like late in the game, and you'd be able to cut down the number of singles. And evaluators are telling me it's something that they think could have real benefit.
Very interesting. Buster Olney with us now. Buster, you were at Wrigley, so you've seen the rings. I got to tell you, out of all the history of championship rings, the only one I would ever want that didn't come from my team would be the new Cubs ring.
Wow. It's gorgeous. Last weekend I heard that, the facing of it would have the 108 diamonds. And I was wondering when I heard that, okay, how do you fit 108 diamonds onto a ring? Well, it turned out that was just on the front part of the ring that it had 108 diamonds. It's got 240. Plus it's got some rubies. Plus it's got the really cool logo. Plus it's got the the marquee of Wrigley Field, and on the inside they got the GOAT, and they got the number of games that they played and who they beat in the World Series. It's amazing that they had that much stuff on it. And look, if you're going to have a ring that's going to have 240 diamonds and it's going to be big, that's about as tasteful a gaudy ring as I can remember. It's a beautiful ring, and you can bet that probably a lot of people at Father's Day or Christmas this year are going to be getting a replica of the Cubs championship ring. It was pretty cool.
I just love that they put the GOAT in it. Like, the GOAT made that the greatest ring of all time. Like, it's the GOAT ring because of the GOAT.
Well, I know this. If you were a Cubs fan, I mean, not only would you be angling for the replica, but you'd be like, how they talk about 2 months' salary if you get engaged? You'd be like 5 years of salary to get the $70,000 real version, I bet.
Absolutely. Buster, what do you got coming up this weekend?
We've got the Yankees and the Cardinals this weekend. Matt Holliday going up against his former team on Sunday Night Baseball. And Adam Wainwright against Michael Pineda, who looked pretty darn good the other day with that nasty slider.
Can we expect more of that, you think?
I think so. As he gets older, I think he matures. We sometimes forget how young he was when the Yankees traded for him, in part because the Mariners are probably worried about whether or not he could hold his delivery, about whether he could stay healthy. I think as long as he does that, as long as he's healthy, he's a guy who's going to continue to progress.
Buster, we appreciate you. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, guys. Good to talk with you.